evening, I would say, tonight. I welcome you to Loosen the Cords That Bind. Let's talk about it. My name is Dr. Eleanor Thompson. I am the CEO of Loosen the Cords That Bind, LLC, a for-profit business. Again, thank you for joining me on tonight. I thank God and I give God honor for this time and for this season. I thank Him also for this platform that He has allotted me at this time. I thank God for Pastor Thompson Paul and Lady Elder Michelle Paul, the owners of this radio station, TrueLifeRadio.net. I am your host on tonight, and I will be sharing again unto you some things. Again, as I always put it out there, a disclaimer, this may not be something that you want to hear, or maybe you feel that it's not for you, but it may be for somebody that you may meet along the line somewhere in your life, and this may be of interest to them, and this may help them. Again, if you please, I will encourage you to like, click, and share. This particular segment, so that somebody, I guess, can be blessed. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule on this evening just to support me. Much appreciated. Again, just to let you know that I will be on True Life Radio every second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. Again, every second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. Share it so others may hear it. Again, I say share it so others may hear it. Now, before I get into the meat of the lesson of the session on tonight, we're going to have a conversation. But first, let me give you some numbers. If there's someone out there who is dealing with domestic violence, because this is a platform for domestic violence, as you may know, or some may not know if you're joining in for the first time, welcome again. This is a platform for domestic violence. And things that are connected with that I deal with. But if you have a problem and you're experiencing some of that in your life right about now, and you need help, if it's an emergency, I would implore you to call 911. But if not, I would give you this number, and it's to Safe Horizon, and that they have many different things that they're out there that they can help you with. All you got to do is give them the call. Remember, you are not alone, and you don't have to go, along with this by yourself, because there is help for you. All right? So that number is 1-855-234-1042. Again, that number is 1-855-234-1042. And if you're outside of New York City, that number you can call is 1-855 484-2846. Again, that number is 1-855-484-2846. Now, if you would like to reach out and touch me, that you can call me at this number, 1-800-454-4639. Again, my number, if you want to reach out to me, is 1-800-454-4639. And just again, if you are calling me, please be very clear and specific. And if you're leaving a message, please let me know if I can return your call, because I don't want to put anyone in harm's danger, right? Because sometimes I don't know the situation, so I don't want to be that thing that may put you in more harm's way than you already are. Amen. Amen. So now, again, as I dealt with in the last session, and let's talk about the session that we just had not too long ago. The prior session, I was talking to you, of having a conversation with you about altering our attitudes, and as being like-minded with Christ, which is thinking of others first, not being selfish, and serving with a Christian heart. And then I went on to unpack how to communicate our anger and learning to convey anger properly, because there's a way that you can do it in a manner that's proper and not improper, right? There's that no one gets hurt, right? So before communicating our anger towards someone, we have to take the time to evaluate We learn whether addressing it is necessary or not, or is it appropriate at that time, or is it beneficial? It may be beneficial to you, per se, the person that wants to get it out. You know, I have something and I want to get it out. So maybe you have to wait and hold that for a minute until that other person is, they are in agreement to have this conversation with you first and foremost, right? And sometimes because people don't know how to handle anger, or sometimes even how to direct the anger, right? But then again, there's being proactive in communication, whereas you're being realistic in our expectation of others, because sometimes we expect so much from others, but what about ourselves? What do you think that the other person is expecting of us? So we have to be mindful of that. And then we have to do, as also being proactive, is to really think through how we're going to respond or react to those other reactions that the other person may give. Amen? Again, now let's, as moving forward, I would say perhaps the most challenging when using assertive, which is aggressive or forceful communication, is to express your feelings without the other person becoming angry or defensive. You know, because sometimes it's the tone that we use that will cause someone else to fly off the handle, right? Okay, what makes it so difficult? What makes it so difficult is that, for the most part, people do not like to be criticized. But I don't know about you. You know, it's according to the criticism. Sometimes it's harsh, and maybe and sometimes it's intentional, and then sometimes it's not, right? But telling somebody what they did wrong, what you don't like about their behavior, or how they hurt your feelings, can very easily trigger. What trigger means the cause to happen or to bring about or to provoke a negative reaction, right? So, and that's what we're trying to avoid, provoking and generating or bring about or causing a negative reaction or a trigger to that negative reaction, right? But we have to keep in mind, I'm still having a conversation with you about communicating your anger. And for the most part, everyone, again, gets angry. So it's just not to those who are in domestic violence relationships. Regular couples have anger issues. Family have anger issues. Some so that they're still not speaking. So everybody has anger issues, and I believe this will help because this is like a series that I am doing on anger. Now, one of the most effective ways of using assertive communication, which is again kind of forceful in a sense, is by using a technique known as the sandwich technique. Imagine a sandwich. It's two pieces of bread or two slices of bread, if you will. That would we would call appreciation, compliments, or positive feedback, right? So those two slices of bread, and keep in mind, they are appreciation or compliments or positive feedback, right? But what's two bread or two pieces of bread without the meat of it, right? So as for me, I love meat, so I'm going to put some meat in that sandwich in between those two breads or two pieces of bread, right? Somebody want peanut butter and jelly, but not today. So we're going to deal with the meat of the issue, right? And we really usually have something, like I said, in the middle of the sandwich, really, again, is the meat. So the meat of the sandwich, would be your complaint, all that criticism or concern, right, in the middle of that. Now, in order to minimize defensiveness, you should begin with, or we should begin a compliment, the first piece of bread, right? Then present the main message or the meat of the problem that you're trying to communicate, right? And then finish with another compliment, right? So that which are positive feedbacks and appreciation. So I'm going to give you, I saw this while I was doing some research, the example of a compliment sandwich, right? And this is what it says. And it says, They're making a example again. I've always considered you to be one of my best friends. That's a positive feedback, and that's a positive reaction, right? Right? Or a positive, I would say, feedback on that. So when I heard that you were talking behind my back, I felt really hurt. What I need is for you to talk to me directly and not get others involved. Okay, that's the critical feedback. You have always been there for me in the past, and I know I can still count on you. That's the second compliment and the positive feedback, right? So, and if you can hear, as as you can see or hear in the aforementioned example, the compliment sandwich made it possible for an important, I would say, communication to be made in a non-hostile manner, right? By beginning and closing with positive feedback, a friendly tone was set and an important message was able to be conveyed, right? Rather than aggressively attack the other person and risk making things or matters worse or bottled up sometimes the things can get bottled up, right? And begin and become potentially, I would say, a very explosive. And this type of communication allows one to get things off of their chest without putting the other person on the defensive. Now, when using this technique, you want to be effective first, right? If you want to be very effective, it is essential that your praise be genuine, right? Don't say something and they know that you don't mean it, especially if they know who you are. Don't be fake. In other words, just let me put it out there. Don't be fake. If you're trying to come to an agreement in a situation, whatever, and just don't be fake. Just if you don't have anything good to say or compliment person, just don't say anything, right? Like also remember, we also have the challenge of the more difficult people in our lives. However, we should know and be able to think at least something good to say that are both complimentary, complimentary, and sincere, right? Of course, there is something good that you could find with anything or anybody, right? It has to be a very a hard thing not to be able to find something good to say about someone. If it's just one thing, right? But whatever, even that one thing, let it be sincere. Let that one thing be sincere, right? It may take some extra thought on your part or our part, but there's also almost always something positive something that can be said, right? Because sometimes people are a little difficult to deal with, and because of your actions, you don't want to have anything to say at all. And what you want to say may not be what you need to say at that time, right? And like I said, don't just be fake about it. Be genuine when you give them a compliment. All right. Choose to communicate your desires for open and honest communication. Right. That connection, that talk. You have to be open and honest to have to have a conversation, to make some resolutions, right, and decisions at that time. Now, you can express your anger and pain in a loving, non-accusatory way without criticizing the person's character, utilizing, again, this particular technique of the sandwich technique, the bread of appreciation, the meat of the matter, and the bread of encouragement. The next thing that you could do is when you're using this technique is to evaluate the willingness of the person who's going to receive your rebuke without becoming angry or being defensive. And again, you must think again, are they willing to understand your heart, right? The fear, the frustration, or the indignation over injustice, that the way that you may have treated them, or the way that they said that you treated them, even though you may not agree with it, you need to listen. You have to be willing to understand their part. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes people say, well, that's a misconception. No, maybe that's your misconception, but that's my truth. Amen. That unfair treatment, the breach that was made because of that injustice that you caused me or the other person, right? Now there's an outrage, there's that wrongdoing, that the frustration of it, the disappointment, the failure of it, right? There's irritation there, then there's resentment, and the indignation of it, the indignation nation of it is the anger, the fury, and the rage, right? And now what we have to do as well as while we allow this to happen using this technique, we have to give opportunity for a response, right? Without interruption, without the break, without the interference or defensiveness. You may want to be on the defensive, might be on your part, but however, you have to be watchful and protective, guarding all of that and be preventive at the same time. But you have to be able to give opportunity for a response of how they feel, right? Then again, now you have to affirm what is being said by repeating, and that's good sometimes to do is once someone says something and you have that opportunity, you repeat that what was said so that it could be clarified, so that making it so that it's clear and it's simplified or illustrated in the spoken statement, right? So you want to make clear that everybody's on the same page and there's no miscommunication whatsoever. Then we have to do is request and desire changes in behavior that you believe will resolve, which will encourage or determine the present problem and prevent, first, I would say, future problems, right? Now, after that, we need to promote fairness, as it would say, and objectivity, right? The optimism about it, the disinterest about it, the detachment, right? The openness, right? All of that. You have to promote fairness in that part because they may feel this. They may feel disinterest about it because after a while, when something has been done and a person feels that there was injustices done to them, and that's one of the reasons for major anger is the injustices of the person or the unfair treatment that they believe that they felt that they were dealt with, right? So then after all of this, we have to extend total forgiveness, right? Total forgiveness, unreserved, and willingly forgive. Sometimes, like I was making a statement in one of a post, forgiveness is an ongoing process. You have to sometimes over and over again. How many times shall I forgive my brother? 70 times 7. That's a lot of forgiveness going on in one day, right? So it's an over and over process that you have to go through, right? Real forgiveness, right? Because sometimes it may take you longer than the other person to forgive, according to what has been dealt with them, according to that situation that they could have been in, that you were in, right? And the damage that was done to that relationship, right? Then we have to value differences and goals and desires and their priorities as well. And applaud the person's willingness to listen to you to resolve the problem and work again toward improving your relationship. But it takes, like I said, as I read to you these things, you have to also be able and willing to, you have to be in agreement with them as well. You have to be in agreement as well with them, right? And it's also, when we're dealing with communication again, it's important to avoid the overuse of this technique. Why? Because so that the words do not appear to be phony or overdone or strained, because sometimes forced or overly planned. Because if you're trying to say something good about somebody and you don't have nothing to say, then you're trying to find words to say. That's a little, that a little bit kind of, it's touchy. It's very, very touchy and sketchy about that part. That that part of it. So you have to be able to do it with like if nobody's twisting your hand to tell you to make you say something nice about someone. It should come. It should just flow. And as someone has done something to you so much to the point that you don't have anything good to say, think of the times before you were angry with that person, or put like I said. In fact, you cannot even have a conversation or communication, anything with someone when you're angry or when you're trying to solve anything, when you still don't feel, there's no resolution there, there's no decision there. What can you do? There's nothing that can be done until you have forgiven. But that process, maybe not through the whole process, but having that conversation could bring you through that process, and there's the resolution to that what you so strongly feel. But they have to have a conversation. But that conversation again cannot be done in anger. You have to let go of the anger. Sometimes we hold on to things so long so we forget why we're holding on to those things, right? And just become a deeper sore, a deeper cut, a deeper sore, a deeper wound. And so one time I used to so angry with my husband to the point that after a while I forget and I used to harbor anger because it happens so often. So I sometimes angry so long till I forget what I was angry about. So then the Lord has to deal with us. We as Christians, yes, have to be dealt with in such a way, right? Finally, our compliment should in some way be related to the critical message or that we are trying to convey in this conversation. And that conversation was how, the person felt that they were being hurt by the friend or they were being talked about. This is necessary in order for the conversation to flow smoothly and to feel genuine. Now, say, for example, the aforementioned example that I gave you before, that I provided you with, will lose its effectiveness if the compliments seem to be out of left field. When I say out of left field, what I'm talking about, I'm so glad that you asked. For example, like I said, I've always admired your dancing ability, and you're such a terrific football player. Now, these compliments right here may be genuine, but have absolutely nothing to do with the friend talking behind your back. As I aforementioned before about the friend, I heard, and then we started the conversation about the sandwich technique. This right here is like off left field somewhere, way off left field, right? The dancing ability and the football playing has nothing to do with this. They may be a great dancer, and the person may be a terrific football player, but the compliments may be genuine, like I said, but have absolutely nothing to do with the friend talking behind your back. So we have to stay on the subject of what it is. Because when you go off left field like that, you throw the whole thing out of joint, out of sync, right? And no matter however, by properly using anger management techniques, such as the compliment sandwich that I just was giving you some examples of, one can maximize or minimize the potential cost of anger, because anger has a cost. Did you hear me? I said anger has a cost. There's a cost of anger. There's like if you play with the fire, you're gonna get burned. Anger has a cost. It causes health problems, right? A high level of anger that increase the risk of a health problem, high blood pressure, heart issues, emotional issues. A lot of problems cause to your body because of anger. They cause diseases. Most of the time, people are walking around now with, I'd say, sickness or infirmities because of anger. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes because things that they have not yet released, right? And I'm not saying that, but it's not easy to release when you've been hurt. From experience, I know. But eventually, you have to let that thing go. And sometimes you have to ask God, Lord, help me to release it because I do not know how to release this thing, especially when I feel that I'm right, that I'm in my right. Why should I release it? I'm holding on to it. This is my badge of honor because it's my badge of right because how they did me, I can act this way, right? But eventually you may be right, but it's not going to benefit you. To holding on to that anger, it must be let go of. You have to release it and let it go and ask God, Lord, show me, teach me how to take control of me, take this anger out of me because first of all, you have to tell them, I don't want this. I don't want to carry this weight around with me. I don't want to carry this burden around with me. So teach me how to release my anger so that I could be free and the person who I'm holding it against can be free as well, even though you are holding something that they're walking around free basically because they don't even know why you may be angry with them. And sometimes it may be that they do know. Again, it depends, right? And then you have the cause of anger also causes impaired self-esteem. Although the expression of anger may feel good, it often leads to the feelings of guilt and shame or embarrassment. Okay, even so, you said this happened, and you could just be overwhelmed with all the stuff. But here comes guilt, here comes shame, here comes embarrassment, and that does something to your self-esteem as well. Because people may say, "Well, why you have to do all this and all of that?" Yeah, that because that's the way it was at that time. And that's the way I felt. So sometimes, when you listen to people, that's why we as Christians need to be cognizant and ask God to really give us wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing, right? Now, there's a cause of anger that causes damaged relationships. Frequent or intense outbursts may happen, whether physical or maybe verbal, but it can destroy marriages. Anger, and we're still talking about anger, it can break up families and ruin friendships. I've seen it happen, right? Experienced it. Anger can tear up a family that's been so connected together and now all over the place. Nobody want to talk to anybody because of something misconstrued or whatever the case may be. Friendships down the drain. Marriages because of anger. Sometimes they don't want to get back together, and sometimes, like, because of in domestic violence, afraid of that same cycle, like the cycle is going to continue after the honeymoon period is over again, and we think that everything is okay, and there's joy in the valley. Here come again this old thing knocking at your door, this anger, right? The outburst, the intensity of it all, right? The physical and the verbal abuse. Again, then, of course, anger causes another thing. Our children, the relationship with the children part, the effect of the children witnessing chronic or intense anger in the household can be devastating, even so more that the impact of it is more devastating than parental divorce. Can you imagine the witnessing of anger to a child, to children, is more devastating than their parents being divorced or separated? That is something. So even those who are listening, we have to be careful. Even if we can, I know sometimes the domestic violence, there is no way you can hide anything because of the person. Like my husband, he was just so loud and he was so boisterous, and it was so intense. The violence was so intense. The children have to get involved. There was one point in my life where he was chasing me to hit me, and my son, who was like maybe 4 years old, 3 years old, he got up in the middle between us and held up his hand, like to take the edge over that anger, and so my husband can pick him up so that he won't hit me. Think about that. A child 3 or 4 years old thinking already, well, if I get in the middle of them and I hold up my hands to my father so he can pick me up, that will cause my mother not to get hit. Amazing, isn't it? Again. And lastly, the workplace, right? Both the quality and the quantity of your work depends, um, again, on the work. Or it could be our work on the workplace because of this anger could be compromised, right, by poorly managed and frustration and resentment and all of that, all of those things right there. But anyway, again, my time is up, so I will complete on the next session. I believe will be the last session for the anger and the communication and how we communicate anger and the resolution of it all. So I thank you again for tuning in on this evening or tonight, and I appreciate your support to the highest, and I thank God for each and every one of you for tuning in and supporting on tonight. So again, I will say God bless you, good night, and have a blessed rest of your night or your evening. Good night. Thank you.